What if I told you that two of the most stubborn hearts in English literature, he proud, she fiery, spent 10 minutes trapped in a slow, simmering storm of attraction that neither could fully name or resist? Imagine a room where glances linger too long, where words teeter between politeness and challenge, and every subtle touch sparks a quiet war between pride and desire. For 10 unforgettable minutes, Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy unravel each other's defenses without a single confession, yet everything hangs in the balance. Would you know if love had quietly taken root before either dared to admit it? Elizabeth Bennet arrives at the estate with the soft clatter of her boots against the gravel, a subtle determination in every step. She is not a stranger to curiosity, nor to the quiet thrill of observing a household that pulses with manners, expectations, and secrets. Her eyes scan the grand hall, taking in the polished wood, the flicker of candlelight along the walls, and the gentle hum of a piano from somewhere beyond the corridors. But it is one figure, standing apart, composed yet unmistakably commanding, that captures her immediate attention: Mr. Darcy. Tall, severe, but not without an unspoken magnetism that seems to pull the room toward him. He notices her too, though he would never admit it aloud. There is an almost imperceptible narrowing of his eyes, a subtle shift in his posture, as if her presence alone challenges every carefully maintained wall of decorum he has built around himself. Elizabeth, sensing the weight of that gaze, does not falter. Instead, she lifts her chin slightly, allowing a flicker of amusement to play across her lips. Their first words, polite and measured, are carefully crafted, yet every syllable vibrates with unspoken meaning. "I trust your journey was pleasant?" Darcy asks, his tone polite but carrying the faintest tremor of interest that he immediately attempts to mask. Elizabeth smiles faintly, a teasing glint in her eye. "Pleasant enough, though I confess I walked much of the way," she replies, as though daring him to comment. Her words, simple on the surface, carry a subtle challenge. Will he acknowledge her independence, or will he remain bound by the rigid rules of his pride? For a moment, Darcy is caught off guard. He considers the response, weighing whether to offer a courteous remark or to allow his curiosity, his usual curiosity, to speak for him. Their conversation unfolds slowly, each exchange layered with dual meanings. Elizabeth observes the small details, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his gaze occasionally flickers toward her hands, relaxed yet graceful. Darcy notices her laughter, the effortless way it escapes even when she intends it not to, and he feels a stir of admiration mixed with irritation that she can provoke such emotions so casually. Each sentence is a duel, every smile a subtle truce, and yet beneath it all simmers a quiet fascination neither is ready to acknowledge aloud. As they move through the rooms, Elizabeth notices the glimpses of Darcy's character that others might miss: the careful attention to his sister's comfort, the genuine though restrained amusement in his eyes when she teases him. Darcy, in turn, cannot help but be drawn to Elizabeth's mind as much as her presence. She navigates the room not with arrogance, but with a confidence that commands attention, that challenges him without disrespect, and yet delights him more than any compliment or praise could. The tension between them builds almost imperceptibly, a slow crescendo that teases at the edges of propriety. Words are chosen with precision, yet the undertones betray curiosity, amusement, and an emerging admiration neither can name. Elizabeth makes a casual remark about the collection of books on the shelves, only for Darcy to find himself defending the arrangement, the choices of the owners, in a way that is far more personal than he intends. It is a subtle dance, conversation as a kind of courtship, restraint serving only to intensify the desire beneath the surface. For 10 minutes they move through the hall and into the drawing room, their dialogue a careful mixture of provocation and civility.
She challenges him lightly, teasing him about the severity of his manners, and he responds with measured retorts that reveal glimpses of wit, vulnerability, and intelligence he often keeps hidden. Every shared glance lingers just a second too long. Every pause in conversation carries the weight of unspoken questions. Is this attraction, respect, admiration, or something more dangerous, something they dare not name? And just when the moment seems poised to remain a careful dance of restraint, Elizabeth reaches for a book, a trivial, innocent gesture, and their hands brush. The contact is fleeting, almost accidental, yet the air between them thickens with tension. Darcy's fingers tighten just slightly, almost imperceptibly, while Elizabeth's heart beats a fraction faster, her mind racing with thoughts she has not yet dared to speak. Neither withdraws too quickly, as if both are testing the boundaries of propriety while secretly savoring the silent thrill of proximity. But as the music swells faintly in the background and a distant voice calls for attention from the adjoining room, their moment is abruptly interrupted. They are forced to step back, to recompose, to pretend that nothing extraordinary has just occurred, yet both know, in that quiet space between words, that everything has changed. Could it be possible that in just 10 minutes, the minutes stretch as Elizabeth and Darcy are momentarily separated by the casual movements of the household? Yet the air between them seems charged, as though even distance cannot dilute the quiet pull of fascination. Elizabeth steps lightly across the polished floor, her eyes catching glimpses of Darcy from across the room. She notices the way he straightens imperceptibly when she moves, as if her presence alone compels him to attention. There is a subtle energy in the room, unspoken and electric, that neither can deny. Darcy, for his part, struggles to maintain composure. Every detail of Elizabeth's comportment, her natural elegance, the graceful arc of her hand as she reaches for a curtain, the faint crease of her brow as she reads a passage aloud, stirs an awareness he cannot quite reconcile with his usual restraint. He is aware, acutely, of her presence, of the way her laughter echoes faintly even when she is not speaking directly to him. His mind, usually so disciplined and precise, wanders unexpectedly to thoughts of her, imagined conversations, unspoken questions, and fleeting smiles. Elizabeth senses his gaze more than she sees it, a flicker in the corner of her eye, a sudden change in his stance when he thinks she is looking elsewhere, draws a mischievous curiosity from her. She tilts her head slightly, a subtle acknowledgment of the silent scrutiny, and allows a hint of a teasing smile to play upon her lips. She knows, with the quiet certainty of someone attuned to human nature, that Darcy is watching, analyzing, perhaps even captivated, and the thought delights her. Their exchanges resume with the return of conversation, carefully measured yet laced with undercurrents of intimacy. Elizabeth remarks lightly on the arrangement of the furniture, the selection of paintings, or the way a curtain falls just so across a window. Each comment is simple enough to appear casual, but Darcy listens with intent, finding in her observations insights he did not anticipate. He realizes, perhaps for the first time, that she notices more than appearances. She perceives character, intent, and subtlety. And he is quietly, reluctantly impressed. Elizabeth, in turn, notices subtleties in him that betray more than his controlled exterior. The way his fingers tap lightly against the edge of a table when he is deep in thought, the momentary softening of his gaze when he observes something that pleases him, even the almost imperceptible tension in his shoulders when a remark brushes against his pride. All are clues to the man behind the reserved, formidable exterior. She notes these quietly, storing them in her mind, understanding more about him in 10 minutes than most people ever do in months. Their conversation drifts naturally from one subject to another, touching on books, music, family anecdotes, and shared acquaintances. Yet every word is charged, as if each sentence carries double meaning. Darcy teases lightly about Elizabeth's stubbornness, and she counters with an equally measured jest about his severity. Their laughter is soft, restrained, but genuine, echoing across the room with a warmth that is felt more than heard. The shared amusement, subtle as it is, begins to chip away at barriers both had thought impenetrable. There is a moment when Elizabeth bends to retrieve a fallen book, her movements fluid and unguarded, and Darcy's gaze follows with an intensity he barely conceals. He notices the quiet strength in her posture, the grace in her motion, the way her hair catches the light, and for a fraction of a heartbeat he is struck, not by superficial beauty, but by the compelling combination of intelligence, confidence, and charm. He forces himself to look away, to preserve some semblance of control, yet the impression lingers. Elizabeth, sensing the lingering attention, straightens and meets his eyes. There is a pause, almost imperceptible, where the air thickens between them. Neither speaks, yet the silence carries weight. It is not awkwardness nor discomfort. It is the tension of unspoken acknowledgment, of two minds recognizing a connection they are not yet ready to name. The moment stretches just long enough to feel like eternity, then dissolves as a minor interruption, a servant, a distant sound, forces them to return to ordinary conversation. Yet both are acutely aware that nothing ordinary remains in that room. As the minutes continue to pass, small gestures accumulate significance. A brush of hands while exchanging a book, a shared glance when a remark elicits quiet amusement, even a pause that allows each to observe the other's expression more fully. Every detail is amplified by the charged atmosphere, by the knowledge that they are slowly, inexorably unraveling the defenses they have long held so tightly. And with each subtle interaction, the possibility of something more, something deep, profound, and entirely forbidden, grows ever more palpable. Darcy's pride warily guards him, insisting on restraint, while Elizabeth's wit and curiosity tease boundaries she cannot yet cross. Yet despite all attempts to maintain civility, the attraction simmers beneath every gesture, every glance, every carefully crafted remark. It is a slow burn, delicate, precise, yet undeniably present. In these 10 minutes they have not declared love, they have not even admitted desire, and yet every heartbeat, every word, every stolen glance suggests a silent truth neither can fully ignore. And just when it seems that the tension has reached an unspoken climax, when every subtle glance, every restrained movement has hinted at the inevitable, a sudden interruption, a knock, a call, the arrival of a third party, forces them apart once more. They are left standing in the charged silence of unspoken thoughts, the air between them heavy with possibility, each acutely aware that something has begun that cannot be unseen, unconsidered, or undone. Could 10 minutes of conversation, glances, and unacknowledged attraction truly change the course of two hearts so guarded, so proud? Or will the forces of pride, circumstance, and caution conspire to keep them from ever admitting what they now both feel?
The soft flicker of candlelight casts gentle shadows across the drawing room as Elizabeth and Darcy find themselves momentarily alone once more. The brief interruption has only sharpened the awareness between them. Every movement, every breath feels heightened, as though the air itself carries a subtle charge. Elizabeth notices the way Darcy's shoulders seem to relax fractionally when she returns, but there is still that unmistakable tension in his jaw, a tension that speaks of controlled restraint, of feelings barely contained. She smiles inwardly, sensing the delicate balance she is walking, a dance of wit, charm, and careful observation, where one misstep could expose more than either intends.
Darcy, on the other hand, battles a similar internal struggle. He prides himself on composure, yet Elizabeth's mere presence unsettles him in ways that no amount of social training can remedy. He catches her glance as she observes a painting, and he finds himself lingering on her expression longer than propriety allows. There is curiosity in her eyes, intelligence that challenges him, and an unspoken humor that threatens to unravel the careful layers of his pride. Each subtle gesture, each carefully measured smile becomes a conversation of its own, carrying meaning far beyond words. As Elizabeth moves across the room to the piano, fingers brushing the keys, Darcy follows, not to intrude, but because he cannot help himself. He notices the soft strength in her hands, the way she handles the instrument with ease and grace, and he feels a sudden, inexplicable admiration swell in his chest. It is not the admiration of superficiality, but of depth, of someone who navigates the world with confidence, intelligence, and self-assurance. Elizabeth senses his attention and allows herself a faint, teasing tilt of her head, daring him silently to meet her gaze. Their dialogue resumes, playful yet charged, each